Good morning, everybody. We are waiting for my team to get here, but I haven't heard from anybody this morning. So, and they're usually a minute or two early. So it might just be me and you, world, which is good because today I wanted to talk about sexual guilt and sexual shame with that. Because it's just been coming up a lot in practice, and my heart is so hurt or so heavy for people who are out in the world struggling with maybe a private sexual pain or sexual hurt, um, or shame around a sexual act. And so, if that's you, I want to remind you that therapy is confidential. That um, we have to keep it confidential. Anything that you tell us, we will not judge you. And so if you are out there and if you are struggling with something that has been that has kind of rocked your world, either something you didn't like, maybe you crossed your own boundary sexually, or a boundary got crossed with you sexually, and that could be anything with that. It could have been something that happened recently or something that happened years ago. But if it's still bothering you, if it's keeping you from sleeping at night, if it's keeping you from eating at night, I'm going to encourage you to find a sex therapist and come in and talk to her. And so we've dealt with clients and zoophilia or bestiality. We've had clients who've been, sex offenders. And then we've just had normal everyday people who crossed the line that they never thought they'd cross. So maybe in a work affair or something like that. So I just want to make sure you know today that there is somebody who will listen to you and somebody who will help you start to think about it differently so that you can have a better quality of life with that. Let's see. So one of the things, and then I think the next thing is people are like, well, how can therapy help? And so what happens to us, to people, is that it's like the thoughts in our head get stuck on a train loop, right? And we can't think anything differently, look at the situation differently or whatnot. And so when you start letting those thoughts out, when they kind of start trickling out your mouth, and a therapist with them, and say a person with expertise can start saying, wait a minute, that's not right. Wait a minute. Did you wait, hold on. Take a deep breath and tell me what's the fear behind that. Or tell me, okay, what's the thinking behind that? Or tell me, how did we get to that conclusion? Or tell me, wait a minute, is that even reality? What you're saying? Because there's so many thoughts that we have in our brain, or conclusions that we've made, or stories that we've made up that just are not accurate. And so when you have another person who can say, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right, then you start to say, oh, okay, maybe that isn't right. I think another thing that's going on hugely right now is the baby boomers generation and how they were introduced to sex and sexuality versus Generation Z, and how they've been introduced to sex and sexuality. And so the baby boomers were much more religious, and didn't encounter to enter the internet until, I think the baby boomers would have been in their 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Don't quote me on that, when they interacted with the internet. Whereas Gen Z, they had their cell phones in their hands, many of them in their teenage years, if not before, preteen with that. And so having that phone, that cell phone, the internet in your hand gave them access to sex and sexuality so much sooner and so much greater. And so what we're seeing now is with Generation Z, that they look at a lot more porn, than I think that baby boomers did a lot earlier, because they have access to it. They have it on their phones. Also, they get exposed to extreme porn a lot sooner, and fetishes and different things. And so for like a baby boomer, maybe they would not have figured out something like rubber playing with rubber or whips or something like that. A baby boomer probably wouldn't figure that out or gotten to that stage of sex and sexuality in like maybe their 30s. Whereas Gen Z is getting exposed to it like 13, 14, 15, 16. And so their sexual repertoire and vocabulary and options is just so much bigger. So what's happening is, what I'm seeing come into my practice is Gen Z saying, I'm abnormal, I'm addicted to porn, I'm blah, 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 and all of these things. And it's like, kind of normal for your generation. And some people definitely are addicted, but there are some people who aren't addicted. They're just in the natural kind of teenager progression of stuff. They were watching a lot of porn to get a lot of information. They're still learning and growing and taking in information to learn and grow with that. And so we really want to look at, if it's an addiction now, how is it impacting your life? You know, how is it I want to say, how is it destroying your life? So, but that's the thing. Like, is it destroying your life, or is it not destroying your life? So, like, let's say if you're in college, are you watching porn to the point where you're not doing your papers, you're not showing up to class? Well, showing up to class in undergrad is iffy. Some of us did, some of us didn't. But that didn't really mean we were addicted to anything. We're young. But if you were spending way too much money, it's wrecking you in some type of way. Like, you know, you're you spending money on porn or spending money on sex, and you're not spending money on what you're supposed to be spending on, then that's a problem. But if you're just watching it a lot, but it isn't having a negative impact on your life, I'm going to say you're not at the addiction level yet. So good morning, Sherry, and how are you?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So I started talking about sexual pain and sexual shame. Well, actually, I'm sorry, not pain. Well, more like kind of mental pain, like anguish, and then shame and guilt. And then I wanted people to know that we're here to listen to that all of it without judgment. I think recently I was in a conversation with some people, and they were saying that they didn't fully understand that therapy was confidential with that. That, yeah. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to remind people that therapy is confidential. Now, you can't be hurting a kid. We got to tell the police on that one. With that, you can't hurt a child. You can't, I always joke with my clients, you can't plan to blow up Atlanta in my office. I got to tell you about that. Like, and you can't be actively planning to kill somebody. Aside from that, everything else is confidential. And so you can absolutely tell us, like, hey, I had sex with a tree last night. Okay. Was it good for you? Was it good for the tree? What do you want? And I was also, and then I'll let you jump in and say, what you want to say around sexual shame and sexual guilt, is that people just get locked in their own heads, and it kind of festers. And so just having a conversation out loud where somebody else can say, like, I don't know if it's all that. With that, it's just usually, I've seen clients just be like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy, I'm not weird, I'm not abnormal. No, you're pretty normal. Like, you're pretty normal. As normal as you can get. So, and I was telling them, even before I became a sex therapist, I remember having conversations with people, because it's almost like I've been a therapist all my life. And then I was like, I think I should get trained for this and do this for real. But in my insurance job, like, I remember I'd get in these conversations with people, and they'd almost like, I hate that I need sex so much. Like, I hate that, I have this wonderful partner. Like, I had two different people. I remember when I worked at the insurance, they're like, I have this wonderful partner, but we never touch each other, and I don't think I can stay in this relationship without it. And so it's it's that kind of sexual anguish that people are scared to say out loud. Like, I hate that I have a physical touch need. You're normal. It makes sense that you got a physical touch need. And so talk to your partner about it, talk to a professional about it, and start to work through it. But don't just get stuck in your head thinking, I'm a terrible bad person because I'd like to have sex with my partner more than once a quarter or once a year. I think, with that. And so and I honestly got to say, I didn't know so many people were not having sex.
I had a client that flat out asked me, "Is this normal?" I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
Today, I'm going to be busy from this time before you and this time after you. So therefore, it's very normal.
Right? It's just so funny because I do the same thing. Like, I have built a full-time career off of this. Like, this is the only work I do. And then like this is normal. And I have not run out of clients. And I don't think I'm gonna run out of clients with that.
I think that they don't realize they're just the people that have the courage to come forth and do something about it.
Yes.
And
Oh,
so now they're
good.
looking like, is it? No, it's not you.
Mhm.
You just are a person who maybe have decided to let go of the shame and the guilt.
Yeah.
And then you're
Yeah.
saying, let's move forward and see how we can fix the
Right.
intimacy. So don't be embarrassed because you have courage.
Right? Please. Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. Because I've said that to a couple of clients, like, thank God you came in, because I would advise anybody, like, get online, get on Amazon, find the book, read a book to help you think about sex differently with that. But I think there's targeted information that we have as therapists that sometimes cuts to the chase like that. Like, if I can tell you in session number 1, as opposed to, like, I do want you reading books. Please understand. I do want you reading books. I do want you getting educated about sex and sexuality. But I've just noticed that I've had clients, and in session 1, I've been able to say, oh no, that's this, and da 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 and da 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 da. And the relief is like, oh, I'm normal. I'm okay. Yeah, you are with that. Yeah, you are. Like, matter of fact, you're right where you should be with that. Or I think I'm supposed to be here right now. No, you're not. And so a case in point would be like a couple getting married in their 40s and then coming in that first year of marriage saying, we're our newlywed year. We're supposed to be having sex like rabbits. No, you're not. You are comparing yourself to a 20-year-old couple that maybe were virgins when they got married and just discovered sex. When you are 40 and you get married, 45 and you get married, you are not having sex like rabbits. Because you got to go to work in the morning. And you just don't have the energy, and you don't have that not that you can't have a great body at 40, but I think any 40-year-old will tell you there's a difference between how they felt at 40 and how they felt at 20, with that. And so please understand. And so sometimes I think that's really helpful when we can, because we have these stories in our heads, right? I'm gonna give you the floor in a minute, Sherry. It's like we have these stories in our heads, like this is how it's supposed to go. And then we don't realize how our life is different. And so it's not gonna flow like the norm. Yeah, if you didn't get married at 45, stop thinking that you're gonna have the same problems that a 20-year-old couple is going to have. It's just completely different. Like the amount of time we spend together. A 20-year-old couple, they may be joined at the hips. A 40, 45-year-old couple, baby, I don't care where you go, as long as you don't have to take me. It's
Please find something
right.
to do.
When you're 20, you're right. And your 20s, it's like, I don't care where you go, long as I can go with you. In your 40s, you're like, I don't care where you go, long as I don't have to go with you. So with that,
Yes.
Oh, it's so funny. That when we like talk about sometimes sex and sexuality with couples, they're like, okay, so if I had sex with you on Tuesday, I don't have to see you again until Saturday. Okay, bet we could do that. And it's not that they don't love each other. It's not that they don't want to spend time with each other, but your life is different when you're in your 40s and 45 and you have kids that you're taking care of and parents that you're taking care of. And you're often in mid-career. And most people in the workforce will tell you the pandemic changed a lot of things. And so work right now for a lot of people is more stressful than it ever has been before. Also, in the Atlanta area, because I'm in the Atlanta area, our landscape for a lot of things is changing. And so a lot of my clients are stressed around work because the city of Atlanta is kind of going through some transitions right now with that. And so they're more stressed than they ever have been before. And so just, like who I am in my 40s and who I was as a 20-year-old girl, like the difference is like astronomical, like just with the level of stress and things that I need to be aware of and conscious of and deal with and everything. So, okay, Sharon, you got the last 15. I've basically talked for 15 minutes straight.
Okay.
So, and thank you for coming, because I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna be the only one on today. So go. Sexual shame, sexual guilt, sexual anguish. What do you want people to know?
What happens if you let it go?
Ooh.
If you choose not to feel shameful and guilty,
yeah,
what do you lose? And it's not the surface answer. So my clients always give me the surface answer. Really, I don't lose nothing. Well, no, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do lose something. So I'm not. So it's more of a process question. Let's deep dive. How does it serve? What purpose does it serve?
Yeah.
The shame and guilt 100% serves a purpose. Understanding what purpose it serves is a start to reducing it and decreasing it. And so some people have to understand that it's not always about eliminating. This might not be something you ever eliminate, but we want to make sure it decreases and reduces. And when it's happening, you are 100% aware of that's what you are experiencing, so you can respond differently.
Right. Right. So
and that takes work to get there, and people don't understand it. It takes work to be like, oh, okay. So I had clients say, I know you're gonna be proud of me. I finally figured out when it was happening.
Yay! Like, no, that's huge. That's huge. Just like that awareness piece is half the battle.
Yeah. And now because I knew what was happening, we ended up, okay, let me tell you how it started. So they get so excited because they're able to reset.
Yeah.
So then they're like, okay, so then what we did was we did what you said, and then we watched the movie, then we spooned, then I let him touch me, or however. And then from there, it was just great.
Yeah. With that. Oh, that's so good. Oh, that's so excellent. Because I'm thinking about a lot of females in their 20s. It's a thing, it's a pattern, specifically in, I'm gonna say the state of Georgia, but I feel like it's a southern thing. It might be a northern thing too. Is you meet this fabulous guy, y'all start having fabulous sex. Somewhere in there, did you remember that you are a Christian, or you decide to become a Christian? And so now you don't want to have sex anymore because you feel in sexual shame and sexual guilt because you like that person so much that y'all was doing everything and anything. And now y'all are just in this limbo stage, and the relationship is feeling horrible because you're a yes, but like, I want to, but I don't want to. I want to, and then I feel terrible about it, and da 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 da. And so just in that crazy, awkward stage. And so when you can sit down with a third party and say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. And then they can help you think about, okay, what actually are your values? What actually do you want to be doing in this relationship? What actually are you comfortable with and not comfortable with? Because when you start to have those conversations and really think about it, then you can get clear. But when it's just kind of this, oh, I shouldn't, oh my gosh, oh, we accidentally fell into the bed, oh, da, 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 da. It's just so much turmoil, and you don't have to live with when you can start to create some good boundaries for yourself with that. So yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted to really say how shame and guilt and anguish about sex shapes your opinion about how your partner wants to have sex with you. So then it becomes a narrative of all they want is sex. Well, who the hell else are they gonna want sex from? If you have made a decision to be in a monogamous relationship,
yeah,
And who else is this person gonna desire?
Hey,
Who else are they
all
gonna
they
say,
want
boy,
is
sure,
sex,
have
but all they
sex
want is
tonight, and you looking real good. You looking like a piece of meat on my dinner plate. And then the person will go, ooh, all they think about is sex. Well, who the hell else are they gonna think about sex? Will.
right. And listen, if really all they thought about was sex and that was a priority, would they even be in relationship with you?
Right.
Do you know how many people, literally, I do know people who had more sex when they were single than when they were in a committed relationship. You know, and so you got to think about that. Just hold space for that. Just think about that and what's going on with that. So, okay. Anything else coming up for you today?
No, you just want people to really understand how things and messages they have learned really shape
Yeah.
their attitude, and it's okay to let it go. It's just okay to let it go.
It's so, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. So much about life in our world, our life is what we think and how we interact with it. Like it's as simple as glass half empty, glass half full. When the glass is half full, you have a better reaction to things and things actually react to you better. But if it's glass half empty, or I'm such a terrible person, or I did this terrible thing one time in 1963 that now so I shouldn't be allowed to have a good sex life, you know. And so for a while I did a lot of counseling and therapy with veterans in the military. It's almost sometimes mob psychology kind of happens. And so there are these things called blanket parties. Like if somebody's not doing or towing the line, where a blanket may be put over that person and then everybody kind of beats them up. Also, there have been some gang rapes, kind of. I won't say gang, but I mean, it's a gang of guys with that. And so now that these guys are older, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, they're like, I can't believe I did that to another human being. That's not who I want to be. Okay, first of all, you was 19 when you did it. So can we be, and then you did it because you were part of the crowd. You know, you wanted to fit in and you didn't want that bad thing to happen to you. And so I think when you can say that out loud and another person can say, well, think about that. And can you forgive that 19-year-old boy because he was 19? Like he was 20. He didn't know what he was doing. Like he didn't know the impact. And you are a better person now, which all of us will strive to be a better person now. Then being part of a better person is also allowing yourself to have everything that you can have, as opposed to sabotaging, beating yourself up for something you did 30 years ago with that. So yeah, a lot of people did a lot of things when they were younger with that. And so I want you guys to forgiving yourselves. Have a conversation about it with a professional out loud, so you can have somebody else say, "Oh wow, okay, you did it when you were young." With that, brains aren't fully developed until 25, and then character on top of that, I would say, takes even longer to develop. And we all know some old people whose character still isn't developed. With that, so love yourself, have self-compassion. Sex is complicated, so read a book, talk to a therapist to uncomplicate it in your life and in your brain. With that, and then accept who you are and what you like, and then go from there. Go from there, but conduct yourself accordingly. But it's okay. All right. Last thought, Sharon, before we let these fabulous people go.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, because right before you got on, I was like, oh, this would be a really short time today. But I just really wanted to talk about sexual shame and make sure people knew it's okay to come in and tell us anything with that. So with that, have a great, wonderful day, my dear. All right.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.